let's talk about social media. Specifically, the 6 most common social media mistakes when it comes to marketing your book, your product, or your service. I'm going to walk around in a second and introduce you to some of my team who are social media users and/or experts. But I want to start off by referencing a previous video blog that we did. And the big thing in that blog was, what's in it for me? Don't forget that when you're out there posting on social media, your content, if you're following somebody, or you're their friend, or you're in their Google Plus circle, or your connection on LinkedIn, the reason there is that connection is because you provide them with something, either information or entertainment that has to fall into the realm of what's in it for me, your follower. Let's talk to Jenny, whose job it is to be online all day in the social networks. So Jenny, what's one of the most common mistakes you find out there in the social sphere?
That would be overposting. What people need to remember is that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So what I see is a lot of people post a whole bunch of stuff up front and expect immediate results. What they forget is that social media is about making real connections, and it takes time to get those connections, and it takes consistency.
Speaking of consistency, let's talk about it more with a guy who's actually been in the radio business too. All right, now Brian, your background is in radio. You were a producer in the top 10 radio market in Atlanta, Georgia. And in Radio Land, they're real big on social media. So what was one of the big mistakes you'd see in social media?
One of the biggest mistakes is inconsistency. Especially with radio shows, you need to be consistent on Facebook and Twitter, updating on a regular basis to connect with your listeners, whether it's something that happened during the show, whether it's a guest that's coming up, maybe it's a big news story, and you want people to be aware of it because you're going to talk about it. So making sure that you continue that relationship with your followers on Facebook and Twitter is really one of the big things that you got to do in radio. And as soon as you forget to get on Facebook or Twitter, or you get too busy, they're going to forget about you.
Amazingly enough, it's not just for radio. It also matters if you're promoting your book or your product. You got to be consistent. This woman writes for a living and has for a long time. Even now, in addition to what you do here, you have a blog that's associated with a column with a major daily paper. And of course, you worked at a major daily paper where they encourage social media. So what was a big mistake you found in the social media world when it came to newspapers and online publications?
The biggest lack of interaction, and I saw it constantly with blogs, Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. People would get an audience, the audience would respond, would comment, and nobody would ever come back to comment back to them. It was like if you came to that account, you were yelling into a big black hole and you got no feedback, so you went away.
And that's really big, whether you're a newspaper, an author, or a company. Interaction. Bill also gets to spend his entire day online in the social networks, and so he sees a lot of mistakes happen. What's one big mistake that you usually see happen in the social sphere?
Basically, just bringing your point home. A lot of people try to make their audience a little bit more generalized and just appeal to a wide variety of audience, and then pulling it back to their specificity and their focus. A big analogy is taking something along business or anything else in life, and then using a sports analogy, because everybody likes a good sports analogy, and then they forget to bring it back in. So what I try to get them to do is, if you're taking us on a journey, make sure you wrap it back to the point so you can kind of say it without saying it. This is why I told you this story, because this is exactly what I'm all about specifically.
So in social media land, you're posting appropriate content when you should, on a consistent basis. You're interacting with people, and whatever you're posting brings back to your brand. But there's one very important thing that if you're lucky enough to get it, you need to do with it. And that's a very common mistake that is made by many people in the social media world. And Russ, you know exactly what that is because you see it happen on a pretty consistent basis. What's that big mistake?
Alex, is getting a great TV segment, being a guest on a TV show, and not sharing that coverage on your social media. The key to your campaign is being seen as a sought-after expert in your field. When the media covers you, you need to share it to let people know that you are the go-to guy and the expert that you truly are.
See, social media really is public relations. Your public happens to be on Twitter, Facebook, Google Plus, and LinkedIn. But if you do it right, you can build your audience, you can drive more web traffic, and you can see some revenue come of it. You make these mistakes, we're probably not going to be friends anymore, and I'm going to unfollow you too.